Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers, from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today's subject is Organization, Part 1. From Sri Aurobindo. Organization and Work. From the ashram, there has never been at any time a mental plan, a fixed program, or an organization decided beforehand. The whole thing has taken birth, grown, and developed as a living being by a movement of consciousness, chit tapas, constantly maintained, increased, and fortified. 22nd August 1939. Having in an organization of this kind a ready and efficient instrument of work, it remains to consider on what lines the energy of the nation may best expend itself. Strength and unity are our objective. Ceaseless and self-reliant labor is our motive power. Education, organization, and self-help are our road. Mistakes come from people bringing their ego, their personal feeling, likes and dislikes, their sense of prestige, or their convenience, pride, sense of possession, etc. into the work. The right way is to feel that the work is the mother's, not only yours, but the work of others, and to carry it out in such a spirit that there shall be general harmony. Harmony cannot be brought about by external organization only, though a more and more perfect external organization is necessary. Inner harmony there must be, or else there will always be clash and disorder. What there is in the ashram is organization and order which the mother has been able to establish and maintain in spite of all that. That organization and order is necessary for all collective work. It has been an object of admiration and surprise for all from outside who have observed the ashram. Things are worked out here. Indeed, very few are the people who understand it, and still fewer those who realize it. The distinction between animal and plant life is unreal, and that between the animate and the inanimate unessential. Plant life has been found to be identical in organization with animal life, and although the organization may differ, life is also present in the metal, the earth, the atom. And it is now also proved that the plant to which we deny consciousness and desire has a life identical with our own, and even organized essentially like our own, though different in its apparent organization. We must therefore make a clean sweep of our old, facile, and false conceptions and get beyond symptoms and externalities to the root of the matter. The recent discoveries of a great Indian physicist have pointed attention to the response to stimulus as an infallible sign of the existence of life. It is specially the phenomenon of plant life that has been triumphantly proved and illustrated in all its functionings. But we must not forget that in the essential point, the same proof of vitality, the response to stimulus, the positive state of life, and its negative state, which we call death, have been established in metals as in the plant. Not indeed with the same abundance, not indeed so as to show an essentially identical organization of life, but it is possible that could instruments of the right nature and sufficient delicacy be invented, more points of similarity between metal life and plant life could be discovered. And even if it prove not to be so, this simply means that the organization is different, but the fact of vitality remains. Secondly, we note that in this organization of nations and kingdoms, those which have had the most vigorous life have gained it by a sort of artificial concentration of the vitality into some head, center, or capital, London, Paris, Rome. By this evidence, nature, while acquiring the benefits of a larger organization and more perfect unity, preserves to some extent that equally precious power of fruitful concentration in a small place and into a closely packed activity which she had possessed in her more primitive system of the city-state or petty kingdom. But this advantage was purchased by the condemnation of the rest of the organization, the district, the provincial town, the village, to a dull, petty, and somnolent life, in strange contrast with the vital intensity of the suburbs or metropolis. The Roman Empire is the historic example of an organization of unity which transcended the limits of the nation, and its advantages and disadvantages are there perfectly typified. The advantages are admirable organization, peace, widespread security, order, and material well-being. The disadvantage is that the individual, the city, the region sacrifice their independent life and become mechanical parts of a machine. Life loses its color, richness, variety, freedom, and victorious impulse towards creation. The organization is great and admirable, but the individual dwindles and is overpowered and overshadowed. And eventually, by the smallness and feebleness of the individual, the huge organism inevitably and slowly loses even its great conservative vitality and dies of an increasing stagnation. Even while outwardly whole and untouched, the structure has become rotten and begins to crack and dissolve at the first shock from outside. Such organizations, such periods are immensely useful for conservation, even as the Roman Empire served to consolidate the gains of the rich countries that preceded it. But they arrest life and growth. We see then what is likely to happen if there were a social, administrative, and political unification of mankind, such as some have begun to dream of nowadays. A tremendous organization would be needed under which both individual and regional life would be crushed, dwarfed, deprived of their necessary freedom, like a plant without rain and wind and sunlight. And this would mean for humanity, after perhaps one first outburst of satisfied and joyous activity, a long period of mere conservation, increasing stagnancy, and ultimately decay. Yet the unity of mankind is evidently a part of nature's eventual scheme and must come about. Only it must be under other conditions and with safeguards which will help the race intact in the roots of its vitality, richly diverse in its oneness.